Yep. We are heading to Saint Lazare Island. That's the San Maggiano. Not Maggiano. Saint Giorgio. San Giorgio. You go in there too, Armand.
There is a pomegranate tree here, off of which I have taken.
Hi. Starting. Okay, coming in.
I'm going to start with this map here. So to understand the history of this island, we have to talk it's strictly connected to the Armenian history. So the founder of this religious congregation, this is an active monastery today, is Mekhitar from Sebastian. That was the man. The man you saw in the statue outside, that was all his idea. There was not the idea of 2 people, 10 or 12. It was just him, actually. So he was born, I would like to tell you that he was born in Armenia in 1676, but he was born in the Ottoman Empire, which was the city of Sebastia. It was right here in the heart of Turkey today. The city is called Sivas today. It's not an Armenian-influenced city anymore. He left and went to Armenia to become a monk, because basically this was the only thing that allowed him to read and write, have access to documents, and be acquainted with the history. So that's why slowly and surely he noticed very severe, pressure from all over the place, from the Ottoman Empire. He left this territory and came towards Europe. Okay, this is a little introduction. You may follow me this way. So these days, United is possible in 1,300 years, which is this type of building, the fundamenta as we call it. This is a short version. The actual version is 16 meters, of wood. They go down inside the earth, they hit a sand layer in the lower side, and it acts like ground to build on. The first heavy building in Venice was built on Torcello Island, island of Torcello. There's an old Byzantine church. This church is from the 7th century, and it was founded by an Armenian man in the 7th century in the Byzantine Empire. He was called Isaac. Italians say Isaccio. So this man, he protected the construction of the church because that was his, that was his role given by the Byzantine Empire. And just before that, he had founded the city of Ravenna, the city of Giuseppe Garibaldi, the big Italian revolutionary. So what I'm trying to say is the Armenian traces go way back in history with Italy, in this case. So now we move towards the church.
You can use it.
This is from Lavash.
So I told you, but you see the entrance, this is the church entrance. This is the Armenian Apostolic Cross. Do you know what the Apostolic Church is? That's the first Christian church in history. Just about a decade or so later, the Catholic Church came to be. But you see already, this is not the Latin Catholic cross, but the Apostolic. It means that you will see here, it's a Catholic Church with an Apostolic Armenian ritus. Meaning again, you will only see cosmetic differences. The way what we wear, the cross looks a bit different. The church has a little bit different, things happening, but it's no theological differences. It's the same theology, which is a big thing to say. How it came to be and how it happened, we're going to explain inside the church.
Stai na corridor.
So you may take pictures, but no flash essentially. But the island was already obviously inhabited since the 9th century before. Then during the 12th century, there was a hospital here, Lazaretto, Lazaret. part of the church mess at Sundays, looking from the outside. Okay, everyone is aware of it. It's as in many different churches all around the world. So that's the history. In Venice, if you restore something, you leave it there. You see the windows, you still see them. That's our respect for the past. Okay, the big windows up here, the four big windows, they did not exist. This was a typical late Gothic built, small, dark Gothic church. Okay, so these were added afterwards. Then the second plague unfortunately, it ended in 1620, 1630, I believe, and from the next years until 1717, which was the day when Megiddo from Sebastian came here to this island. This island was uninhabitable. There was no one living. It was completely destroyed. Okay, the walls were unstable, the ceiling had come down, everything. So Megiddo restored the church first, then all the rest outside, starting from 1721. Okay, so to give you an idea of when what was built. The second thing is he was the architect. He designed everything and he gave it over to the architects that he basically built it. They did. So all what you see outside is 1730, first floor. And the second floor was added 1740. That's that. Talking about the Catholic and Apostolic story, what happened there? There was a division. It was a very heavy division in the year 451 after Christ. So what you see, those mosaics on the right and left, on the upper part, it's a modern mosaic, by the way. It's not from the 14th century. This is mosaic added on a painting. It's a painting. So those circles here, right and left, it's the Armenian Apostolic Saints. Not all of them, just a couple. And what happened is, in 451, you know about those church councils? Big meetings with every single church that had, proclaimed its identity of Christianity. So they sat down and had to discuss it. What do we believe in? What is Christianity? So they discussed the nature of Jesus Christ, the Trinity. Maria, was she human? Or what was she? She gave birth to God. So philosophical, theological questions that had to be answered. So with the great luck, the Armenians had it. In 451, we didn't go to that meeting. There was no discussions with anybody, no dialogues, nothing. So unfortunately, the Persian Empire declared war at the same weeks of that council of Chalcedon. So it's an old city. It's from the western Istanbul there. And so the Armenians, this man over here, that's Bartan Marigonian, the man in red on the right side, with the defensive position sword. He was the general who was forced to take 66,000 Armenian soldiers to war against 250,000 Persian soldiers and 20,000 elephants. Okay, just like 250,000 was not enough. There's 20,000 elephants as a bonus, right? So what happened? There was a big shit. The man who was literally standing on a hill and writing down about the war was the war journalist in 451. So he documented the war very well. There's a question which raises: why do you take 66 against 250? Almost a quarter of a million soldiers. Well, he thought a lot until he came to an answer about the why. If you want to know me. Dressed in white is Saint Gregory the Illuminator. He baptized our king, Bertat III, okay? And in his second we all became Christians. You know, back then the religion of the king was the religion of the people. So everyone was baptized and became Christian. So before this, the Armenians had, I think it was called paganism. It was Greek paganism, in the Greek way. The Armenian god back then was a god of writing also. So it was a god of science. So he baptized our king, and we all became Christians. So Yerishem in 451, so 150 years earlier, later than this, he wrote down that obviously the Persian Empire is not just coming to take the territory away, the gold, the diamonds, the banks. They're coming to convert us, to convert the Armenians to Zoroastrianism, which was, I think, their religion. And Yerishem, Christianity is not like a jacket. You can't put it on and put it off as you wish. He said, this is our skin now. That's what he wrote. It's in blood. There is no conversion. There can't be any conversion. Okay, so because the promise was given. Okay, so that's why they went to war. That's the answer to 66,000 against 250 million, 1,000 soldiers. And you can possibly imagine if we lost the war. heavily. I think 5,000 soldiers were left at the end. We killed over 130,000 of their soldiers. So imagine what kind of ugly, awful, horrific war this was. It was one whole day of fighting, basically from the morning to evening, okay? One whole day. It was fought on the hills of Abarai. We Armenians are better fighting in the mountains, not on the hills. So what happened was we lost the war physically. We Armenians like to say we won it morally. At least to feel a bit better. We won morally because we were not converted. There was no conversion. 10 or 15 years after the war, a treaty was signed that officially the Armenian people in this realm, they're Christians. Differently than we do today. So when you said something, when you had a dialogue, it needed to mean something. It needed to be founded on something. So that's when you say a man of your word. Well, the Armenians kept the word. Not 100% of course said, yeah, let's go and die for Christianity, right? 10% said, no, I have a business, I have a family, no problem, convert me. But 90% said, absolutely no. That's why they went to war, okay? So the Apostolic Armenian religion, Catholic, they went their own ways. They did migration. He studied 451 very well. He translated many things. Went to the Vatican, 1740. Guess what happened? Officially, the Armenian Catholic Church was born. That was Megiddo's job. Exactly. So afterwards, there was another meeting in the year 2000. I think it was November 11th. A meeting between the Armenian Apostolic Pope and the Vatican, which was back then Giovanni Paul II. And this is the moment I remind you that the Armenian Apostolic Church is an independent church today. It's not part of the Vatican. Right. But I told you that we have an Apostolic Ritus in this Catholic Church. So what happened there? Again, Megiddo, he studied 451, he showed the archives. He said, what would have happened if we would have met in 451? What would we have talked about? And he showed that the theologies are the same, which is a big thing to say. So that's what happened. So what will happen after all this history talk? What happens if you come to church at Sunday? What will you hear? These are the Armenian prayers. And if you want to come closer and take a look, it's the same alphabet since 405. Circles, spheres. That's not the alphabet, that's singing. I would say 95% of this liturgy in church at Sunday is singing. Just as certain things have to be read, but that's usually this. 6th century prayers, okay. Obviously, some translated from Latin into Armenian. It's a Catholic church, of course. But especially 6th century written prayers in Gerabar by the Armenian apostles. These were perfected then in the 12th century. Certain prayers can be sang in over 20 different ways. One prayer can be sang in 20-some different ways. After the 13th singing, I said, I believe you. So the thing is, what are you celebrating? What are you talking about? What kind of day is it? What do you need to convey? That's the thing. It's much easier to read the musical notes of today than this,
So is this Latin or Armenian?
No, this is Armenian. Everything you see is Armenian letters, Armenian language. Yeah. So that's that. And then talk about the cosmetic differences, as I told you. The altar, for example, it's way back, Before 1965, which was the Second Vatican Council, a big meeting, the altar was attached to the wall, okay, way back. After 1965, they detached it in the Latin Catholic Church. It came here in the front. You know this, you've seen it. But in the Apostolic one, it stayed back of it. That's it. Still detached from the wall, because in certain prayers you go praying around the altar. Very simple. You see then this big curtain, the red one here, that's not present in the Catholic Church today, the Latin Catholic Church. But the small one on the right side, on the altar, that's present. Okay? Again, little differences. This big one was closed, for example, for those famous 40 days before Jesus' resurrection. It was open on Palm Sunday, which was, I think, almost 2 months ago. So yeah, this is it. And then we...
They will. Oh, yeah.
One of the curious people would be accompanied by a monk, and they will show them the island. So we have 2 corridors we may visit today. This is the European one. We like to call this the European one because the men and women you see in those paintings are Armenians from the diaspora, which is an important word, okay, for all the cultures. There have been, I guess, 2 big Armenian diasporas in history. So, I guess we're going to. So yes, and these people, they've lived, they were born and raised outside of the Armenian territory. Now I have to remind you, there was no Armenia from the 11th century to 1920. And you won't live the way you want to live, or have lived since centuries, so that was awful. But the Armenians decided, I don't know why, to keep the identity. Because I believe it was worth keeping in this case. So these people, they were in high society, like high positions, politically speaking, teachers and everything. So the reason is that everywhere the Armenians went, they opened schools, education, first thing before even getting into the political structure. Because that's the best way to get to know each other, which is the perfect way of integration. Okay, the genuine way of integration. So we have politicians, writers, generals, naval admirals. This man over here, you can see, it's a bit dark, but this was Father Shashyan. He was the personal doctor of the Sultan in Istanbul. And he was an Armenian apostolic monk who, by the way, studied medicine. All right. This man over here, he was in the Ottoman parliament. And I'm talking about an Armenian man. So it doesn't matter how awful the enemy is. There are certain moments of hope, because everyone in the core is good. Being Turk or Azerbaijani or I don't know what, doesn't matter. It's about the education, about the open-mindedness. So this man was even in the higher position in the Ottoman Empire. All right. So they were watching carefully about what would happen, but they did all their best. Then we move over there, South the island, for example. And like the Benedictine church, the Megidarists studied the sciences thoroughly, okay, very carefully, alongside theology, obviously. So this is a Parisian telescope from the 1850s. We had many of these, but we kept this because it's a good looking one. And about this clausura, this little wooden gate here, that's
The monks live over here. This is where the monks live.
Because of their big re-intellectualization program, because our kids would, they had a very bad time in the Armenian territory, in the Ottoman Empire. So these kids were extracted and they were educated to the highest level. These were the Mekitarist schools. Okay, we had never more than 70, 80 students a year, some around that number. And the diploma of that school, when you finished the school, was recognized by the French Parliament and by the Vatican as the highest class diploma you may get in Europe. The Armenians needed it, and Europe listened, which is a great thing. It's again a sign of hope, right? So these kids were educated, and 99% of them became scientists, of some kind. Politicians, real scientists of astrophysics, of biology, so on and so forth. So it was a big contribution to the Armenian presence in Europe, thanks to those schools. This is a theme we'll talk about on the other side. So some of them became painters, by the way, and came back with a painting one day and said, "Thank you." It was a set of paintings, or one painting. It was Edgar Shahin, Jean Sen, Khachaturian, Maturian. It's like saying to French people, "We have Millet and Picasso here." All right, that's our Millet and Picasso. The Armenian churches. Yes.
Sorry, did you educate only the boys or also the girls?
Sometimes girls, but I am unfortunately 99%
So
boys. Yes. We will get to the Armenian woman in Armenian history in the other room,
Okay.
but it was positive. It was positive. Yes, absolutely. Right? So what you see here, quickly about the churches, the Armenian churches, this is how they look, the older ones, very old ones, in Tufa stone, which is this volcanic stone, because Armenia is volcanic territory, thanks to this mountain over there, which is a dead volcano. This is the Ararat, the Ararat mountain. For Christians, this holy mountain, because the Ark of Noah came to a stop there, right? So this are the old churches. This is Echmiadzin, like saying Vatican, for the Armenian Apostolic Church. This is the center, where I was baptized, by the way, in 1989, and I was like 6 months old. But and remember, it was still Soviet Union, So, but anyway, the Armenians, liked the Christianity part, so they did that, yeah. So then we have the second clausura here, this wooden gate again. You see on the right and left bookshelves, right? It's the beginning of the 150,000 book archive we have on the island. Okay, 150,000 books, of course in Armenian language, but generally in European languages, world languages. Mekita, the founder, before he came here and as he was here and afterwards, he had 5 printeries in Venice, and he was printing in 39 languages in every printery for over 2 centuries. This man translated most of the important writers of the world, Italian, Greek, German, English, Spanish, you go ahead, whatever you think. He translated them from their language into Armenian. Because he said we have to learn about everybody. It's not just one or the other. As everyone else is enriching themselves with cultures, we have to do the same. So this man was not afraid of other cultures. He said, no, on the contrary, please, let's read about each other, right? So that's the best part is we are digitizing those books right now. Hopefully we're gonna accelerate the process, so one day you will read them at home. You don't have to come here, necessarily. Not everyone has the time maybe to come to the island, which is, you lose a lot of time to come and get here. It's if you read the languages, you may read them. You may read those books. Okay.
Here's the beginning of the book library. I've seen this before. Năcari, nici cam carați, năcari este năcami. Ah.
Gifts by private collectors, museums sometimes. This is antique Egypt. We're talking 1500 BC. Okay. This is the black part up there is Etrusco. The lower part is Greek, and we're talking BC. Certain things behind the door in this little shelf with those glass, containers. That's the Urartu civilization. I call them the Proto-Armenians. They lived in that territory long before the other migrations happened. Another question: where do the Armenians come from? To the best of my ability, I can't tell you. No one wrote about that. What we can trace back is around 5,000 years from now, backwards in history. Before that, no one has written. There's many, there's not too much written about it. So these are the Urartu people. This is from the 8th century, found in Van, which was a city, which today is unfortunately in Turkey, but it's an old Armenian city, and that's where this was found. On the other side, we have the Asian department, and the upper and lower side, you see also Japanese parts. And one interesting thing is this. It's this sphere here, which is the sphere of Canton, which is a city in the very south of China. They have a big tradition of ivory sculpting. This was one piece of ivory, okay, at the time. So this Buddhist monk in the second half of the 17th century prayed and meditated for 25 years, sculpting every day, sculpting this one piece of ivory until he made this object here, the sphere. It's the life of Buddha represented on it, okay, on the surface. You see the sphere with 14 other spheres in the inside, and they're independent from each other. If I would take some needles, I could play with them, like I could turn them. So again, this is not a matryoshka, okay? You can't open this. It's one single piece, okay? There's much bigger spheres than this, double, triple, 5 times, but this is a one piece, okay? And we know the smaller ones are a bit more difficult to make, right? So big honor to have this here. All right. And then over here we have the Armenian department, In the upper part left you can see, you would make the coffee, I don't know how we call it.
Grind the coffee.
Thank you, that's that, and that's that part, yeah. So then about the, how did Mekita get this island? I told you he left Armenia, right? He was 26 in 1701, around that time I think, he founded the Mekitarist congregation. He wrote a letter to the Pope of Rome asking him the permission to move more towards Europe. So that's when Alvise Sebastiano Mocenigo, this in the painting there, he was the Doge of Venice, let's say the president of the Republic. He was the naval admiral before he became Doge. In the Venetian Morea, which was the south of Greece today, Mekita had a little piece of land. For 14 years he built a monastery. He was printing, he was gathering manuscripts, books, he was teaching in his classrooms. It was a nice looking monastery. 2 months after he finished paying the bank the interest back for the island, the Ottoman Empire took that territory away. 2 months. And he kept going. Why? I don't know. He kept going. He came to Venice 1715. In 2 years' time, laws were changed for another congregation to be part of the Venetian, so of the Catholic Church. I remind you, the Catholic Church was big enough. They didn't need another Armenian congregation. But Mekhitar, first of all, they knew him. Second, they knew what he was saying he was doing. He was a man of his word. And that's how, in 2 years' time, you see what happened here. That's the rest is history. All right, now we can move upstairs here. This was built around 1740. Mekhitar, again, he made this by himself. He designed everything, the measurements, and the architects built it. He died in 1749, Mekhitar. You know how old he was? He was 74 in the 18th century.
Wow.
Like, we had monks here, they were 37, they looked worse than he did, you know? So, probably he had some help from our club, or good genes, or both, I don't know. So he was very lucky, very fortunate. So monumental library, the Armenians like to call this the European library. There is no Armenian books here. 5,000 books, part of 150,000. It's half theology and half sciences. The ones I told you about downstairs. So why? Because Mekhitar teach the students back then, we teach today the same way we will teach tomorrow, never to mix science with religion and never to divide. They have to walk in parallel, one next to the other, very carefully. It's a nice thing to say, it's a beautiful sentence, but what does it mean? Well, you have to study. You have to study, get acquainted with those concepts, and then you will understand how to make the walk in parallel. So that's why it's in this exposition. You see these books in this way. The books you see it's single copies, by the way. It's very few books have double the triples. And again, in all the languages, we have over here the whole Latin. The whole Byzantine history, 24 volumes. Latin language. We have Aristotle, everything is ever written. These are 17th, 18th, 19th century prints. So classic Greek, Dante Alighieri, my hero. If I open them up with the key, you will find more books behind them too. Okay? Also in the lower part, all around you. There's not too much space, so you have to use it well. Then you see the Armenian alphabet on the other side there. It goes all around and finishes in that room back down there, But in this case, it's numbers. Like in Roman numeral, Hebrew letters, Greek letters, they use letters as numbers. This is the letter J and K on this shelf. It should be the number 19. Okay? The 19th shelf. So that's that. And then again, European library, because Mekhitar was a man who integrated himself. And he said, basically, he came to Europe. So he's asking something of us, of Europe, sorry. So he said, I have to give something back. He's not always asking. You have to give something back too. So it can be a genuine relationship. So that's that part. In the painting there in the middle, by the way, you see, those of you maybe are from France, they will recognize him. This is Napoleon III. He signed the permit to build the school in Paris, which is still working today. 2 days a week. They're teaching many things, amongst many also the 2 Armenian languages. There's 2 Armenian languages. So that's the painting he made for his private painting and gave it here as a symbol of friendship. So over here we have these 2 little statues here. And they're made by Antonio Canova. The real, actual, genuine Canova, which is, this is a plastic cast of Napoleon II, King of Rome. If you look at the face, it's the same face he had when he was 20, just smaller and younger. That's the way to show the eternal youth of the emperors, This is a plastic cast, this is an actual marble one, okay? Canova is, look, it's like saying Michelangelo, okay? They were very similar in, let's say, talent. He is from Posagno, which is in the north of Veneto, of this region, the Veneto region. And, his brother, his stepbrother, he was a Catholic monk. He gave these statues as a gift after Canova died. So it's a big honor to have Canova here. It's great. Then above us you can see the affresco of Francesco Junior. Francesco Junior. He was a student of Gian Battista Tiepolo. Tiepolo, like he painted 4/5 of the insides of the Venetian palaces, you know, so this man was a hard-working man. So Francesco Zunio painted something beautiful. The connection between the Western Catholic Church and the Eastern Catholic Church. But as you see on the other side, you know, the Eastern one is missing. Because there was an awful fire here in 1976. It started in the room below there, in the sacristy of the church, destroyed that room, destroyed that room, came up and burned half of the ceiling. And it's gone forever. There is no restoration. There is no detail, unfortunately. So I forget what kind of wood this is, but this needs a lot of heat to burn, actually. So we did not lose books or manuscripts, which is a good thing to say.
Aspettate che vado a prendere.
Coordination. All right. So we're standing in the, we call this a small museum, as you see around you. It's all gifts again by the museums. I would start with the paintings here. So when I say Ivan Aivazovsky, probably someone would recognize him. This man, he was, there you see a self-portrait of him. Ivan Aivazovsky for the Russians. To the Armenians, he was called Hovannes Aivazyan. And to the Italians, it was Giovanni Aivazovsky. He was an Armeno-Russian, let's say, naval officer. He was always on the sea, high sea. He painted the seas always in the most devastating moments and in the most calm moments. You see, he had a wide gamut of paintings. This is his brother, Gabriel Aivazyan. He was a Megataurus monk, by the way. So after Aivazovsky died, which was the year 1900, the brother gave most of the paintings to this island as a gift. Besides, this one. This one was painted by Aivazovsky for the Vatican. After Aivazovsky died, the Vatican gave this to this island as a symbolic friendship between Catholic churches. So this is called Il Chaos, the beginning, the creation, his most famous one. Then over here, I said the Armenians had been present in Venice since the 6th, 7th century. That was fragmented. Okay, very few things the Armenians did here. When we talk about the actual presence, we have to go to the 12th century. I remind you, Armenia fell under the Mameluke armies of Egypt and the barbarian and Tartarian invasions of Mongolia. Okay, that was our biggest enemies back then. I also have to say the Armenians unfortunately didn't fight together. 15,000 fought there, 10,000 here, 3,000 there. After 10 years they said, oh, there's no Armenia anymore. That was literally, it happened so fast because it was too strong of an army to fight against. So that happened. Then in the 12th century, the Kilikia Armenia continued to doing its job. This was the naval republic in the northern and eastern part of the Mediterranean Sea, above Cyprus. There was this little piece of land. The Armenians brought ships to Venice, merchants, textile industry, coffee, tea, colors, diamond, whatever you wish. There was simple business relationship with Venice. And this Kilikia Armenia, this was not founded by the Armenians. It was founded by the French. The Armenians were just business partner number one. Okay, for I believe 4 centuries. So this is the sword, and this pillow here, of the last king we ever had in that Kilikia Armenia. He was called Levon VI, Lusignano. He was coming from the Lusignano family. This man was French, but his name was Levon. Levon VI was the king. He's buried right now in the north of Paris in the cemetery of the kings. Okay, that's this part of history. So then that republic fell, I think, in 1378. That was the end of Kilikia Armenia. But the naval routes, they stayed. We continued the business. Okay, that's the actual reason why Armenians are in Venice. Okay? Another reason why there is this little church in Santa Croce, St. Cruz, behind San Marco. There was the place where thousands of Armenians were living there. They didn't buy the houses, they rented them. It was temporary, as long as the business was strong. So that's why we have this little church there. Yeah. This is the Niagara Falls from the Canadian side. Okay. Painted by Aivazovsky. They say it's uncompleted. They didn't finish it. And one only painting, the only painting he painted for the island himself is this little painting here, the Ararat Mountain. You see people coming from the Ararat towards us. Okay, that's Aivazovsky's painting. The original painting of that is bigger than this one, and it's in Armenia today, in the National Museum, okay, in Yerevan, capital. Then over here we can make a little time travel to the Proto-Armenian, I call it the Urartu civilization. So They obviously were living during the Bronze Age. This is 8th century BC again. This is bronze military helmets, okay, cavalry. The holes you see were added afterwards. That didn't happen at war, so they didn't have a big headache. Then over here you see a bronze military belt, a piece of it. On the lower side, shield, body armor, knives, and horse. Let's say horse castles, protection for those. So they were sophisticated people. They had their own alphabet. They had their own religion. These were the objects they were praying to. These ones here. So we know that they did not have an A in their alphabet. They said U. So if I call the name today, it would be Arartu. So they came from the Ararat region, thousands of years ago. Over 3,000 years ago, during Hittite times, or even. So you say Armenia to my country. We Armenians say Hayastan. You say hi. You say Armenian. We say hi. Like the Greeks, they don't say I'm Greek. They say Eleni. It comes from their old language. We have the same thing going on. So in mythology, which is a nice thing to like a little thing to talk about. So Hayastan is Persian actually. It means land of. Before it meant realm of. Today it means state of. Okay, land of Haik. Haik was the Armenian mythological figure in the old times. So this man fought against an enemy called Bel. He won. The Armenian people came to be. And the nice thing is, he is said to be the grandson of the grandson 5 times. Grandson of the grandson of Noah. The Ark of Noah, the man. So we like to connect ourselves as the first Christians to this, to biblical times. Again, nothing written about this. Okay? Absolutely. We like to, absolutely. Yeah, why not? Well, they lived in the territory, right, before they moved to Van. This was found in Van. All right, so that's that. Good story. Yeah, exactly. Over here, you see this textile. This was not painted on or drawn on. This was printed. Okay, it's a beautiful piece. 17th century, every segment was carved on a panel of wood, colored, and then stamped on the textile. This is how it was done. So you see the life of Jesus Christ around it, his birth, death, and Maria's ascension. Okay, on the right side. These are the coronas the militaries used in the 18th century. Over here, some were even for the bishop. Looked a bit different, articulated. Over here, we have the newer models, less metal, more textile, more diamonds, rubies. Okay, this is typical jerky. This is the one that only the monk can wear. This can be worn by the abbot, very old man in Murano. So this is actual Murano glass, and they made this as a gift for April 24th, 2009 in this case, which is the symbolic and physical date the Armenian genocide started. We're going to touch briefly about it on the other side. So, big honor to have this here. And this part, you see the stick here, this ivory-made stick in the lower. Okay, when you say Vartapettoson, so you see what we associate the word with. Someone who has studied. Okay, the head of the stick, it has 2 snakes looking at each other. Snakes today, you may say, it's a symbol of evil, but back then it was a symbol of wisdom. Okay, let's say knowledge. And whoever holded this stick, he was a highly educated man. A very little commission, jury chose the man who would hold this stick, which means high education. Okay. The smiling man here in the marble book is Kinosian. He restored this place after the fire. Okay. Over here, you take a look at this little white coffee cup. It has heat pipes. Okay, I call them heat pipes. It's to dissipate the heat, so you don't burn the tank when you drink the coffee. Over here, essentially, we have many people who helped building the island. Because basically, the woman had the same rights as men. There was no big division in status, because I guess they understood that it was very amoral, okay, and very counterproductive. So you're basically stopping yourself from moving forward. So that's that. In the 12th century, in the Apostolic Armenian Church, there was also the diaconess, the deacon. Man who studies to become. The diaconess, the female figure. That woman could, she could preach at Sunday. She could give a message. And when the same idea came towards Europe? 1965. Unfortunately. But yeah, that's that. Right. Now we move over here. This is a new latrine. We added this. This is in the Armenian genocide. At the end of the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire lost a lot of territory. Okay? They lost huge chunks of North Africa and Europe to their east, all of it. And again, the minorities had to pay for the reconstruction. Not with their money, but also with the blood. So we talk about the Armenian genocide, but you know, it's not just the Armenians that were massacred. The Assyrians are completely gone. The Greeks of the Pontu, you know, the Greeks who were living around the Black Sea, all gone, you know, mostly. They killed their own people, the Janissaries. They killed the Kurds. So the I can go down the list of 24, you know, cultures which don't exist anymore, basically. So the Armenians were hit worse because population-wise they were more living there than the others. Then the second part is, of course, they were Christians and they were wealthy. The banks in Istanbul mostly were Armenian. The real estate businesses were Armenian. The porcelain, gold, diamond business, it was also Armenian. They were wealthy. That's what I'm trying to say. Potentially dangerous. With money you buy soldiers. With soldiers you win wars, and then it's very simple. So the Armenians protested in 1894 to 1896 to pay the same bank interests. Almost 300,000 were killed as a result. Alright, so then Adana, 1909, another beautiful city destroyed for similar reasons. 100,000 there. So after 1915 was a peak moment. Okay, the First World War, which Turkey today is using as a cover, as every other country was using anything they could use as a cover for what they did, for the atrocities they committed. And the Armenians fought with the Tsar against the Ottoman Empire. Alright, this is absolutely 100% true. That's why the Turks today say, you Christians allied yourselves against us Muslims. That's why this accident happened. They call it an accident. If it happened, it's an accident. Today it's geopolitical reasons. This has nothing to do with history or moral or whatever. It's just about money. So what happened? We don't know exactly how many people died. Okay? We said 1.5 million to fix the number. It was more than that. You know, we found these city registers in the old cities. We bought them, found them, you know, restored them, whatever. Yeah, I would say 4/5 of the Armenians were missing at the end of 1916, 1 year after the deportation. This was almost game over, you know. This was almost game over for the Armenians. But you know what happened then? We educated ourselves again. Those schools I told you in Venice, I held there was a permit to stay of 129 kids, orphans, that had to come from Istanbul to Venice. In those schools, we had hundreds of students there. And we educated them, they came back. You know. Very simple. Again, not Stalinian education, not Hitlerian education, not I don't know what, Karl Marx or anything. No, this was just religion and sciences. Very calm way to teach, you know. So that's why we brought ourselves back to those schools. So this was this moment in history. Then over here you can see this little, the mask, the funeral mask of a man called Komitas Vartapet. So this man, he was an Armenian apostolic monk. He was also a composer of music. Before all of this happened, he traveled in the old Armenian territories, found the eldest villages, the oldest people, asked them to sing the oldest songs we have, the folk songs. He invented a method. While they were singing it, he would write down his method and then he would associate musical notes to it. So he made it very quick. So he wrote like almost 5,000 folk songs that would be obliterated, which would have been forgotten, because how many people were killed afterwards who knew those songs. So he restored it. He was caught by the Ottoman Empire, tortured for months, saved by the French missionaries, brought to Marseille, then to Paris. He died in Paris in 1935 in a mental institution. He couldn't digest all of this. He didn't understand it. So they say he would stand in front of the window for days and sometimes shout and be very quiet. He was gone. Physically present but mentally gone. So we keep this mask here, which was illegally done, by the way, by two militarist monks who sneaked inside the mental hospital because they said, oh my God, like Komitas is dead, you know. This is like our Vivaldi. So this was like our Beethoven almost. So they went inside, made this funeral mask. I think it's clay, right? It's called clay. So quickly you can still see the beard hair inside. Okay? So this is the original funeral mask. We keep this here as a symbol of suffering. Okay? As we keep this 5,000 songs. Okay? So he lives in that. Right? That's that. Very well. Now we go to the other side.
It's okay.
Let's try to get as close as I can.
No, I know. Let's go. Let's go.
To draw a line at the end, right? So that's the old 7,000 square meter border of the island. In the 1970s, a group from Germany came with the newest laser measuring machines. They measured almost 30,000 square meters today. Right? We enlarged the island 4 times in history. So where you see the vineyard on the right side, that was the that was just Venetian lagoon. There was water. Land was added. Okay. The Venetian superintendents, they said, like, you can go bigger than 30,000. You know. The Armenians said, no, we like 30,000. Guess why? This island is almost 1 million times smaller than Armenia today. So that's why they kept it at 30,000. You know? So we make olives, we make the wine, something called fragolino. It's a nice, sweet wine. It's very tasty. Tomatoes, lemons, but it's just for hobby. You know, we import all of it.
The grapes are hanging on the
Yeah.
thing right there.
Three centers on the planet. The other one is in Vienna, Austria, and the other one is in Jerusalem. Because in 95 BC, the Armenians invaded Jerusalem. They stayed there for almost 35 years, I guess. Then the Roman Empire just came back, very simply, and the rest is history. Pontius Pilato and so on and so forth. Okay. And so they have 10,000 manuscripts in Jerusalem, I guess. Very important world historic documents. Austria, Vienna has, I think, 12,000. Matena Daran in Armenia has, I think, over 17,000, you know. This is 4,300, very unique because of the position of the island. And Mekita, you know, left very special orders for his brothers to follow after his death, to go into the most dangerous war zones on the planet and buy the manuscripts, take them out of there. That's why we have these manuscripts here. We have manuscripts from important historical periods of the Ethiopian history, Ethiopian language, 18th century, classic Greek language, 13th century. And I remind you, some of them are copies, like translations from originals that don't exist anymore as a manuscript. From German, Spanish, English, into Armenian or into other languages. This is in Arabic, this is part of the Quran, okay? This is in Farsi, Persian language. We have writings in Hebrew, this is from the book of Esther. This is from the old, like classic Russian language, okay? Then we see here, this little book here is like, so the manuscript is the smallest Georgian Evangelium, 1862. This is interesting. This is one page, one fragment of the first Quran ever written in Arabic language, 9th century after Christ. This, the lower part is an Indian papyrus, okay, made in palm leaf. They were written in palm leaf. This is Armenian sacred writings. The oldest Armenian Bible written is not here. We have the posters of it, you know. It's in Matena Daran today. By the way, it's the same Bible the president put his hand on when he swears the oath. And, talking about the round nature of this place. Why is this round? The oldest Christian churches were round in the inner, in the inside. So Antoni Spenian, who was the architect who built this place in 1967. By the way, father and son, Antoni Spenian and Boris Spenian, are both buried on the island with the monks. They were civilians. They were not monks. But the Mekitarism, that's the way they think. They're as Mekitarists as the others. So they gave heart and soul to this place. So it's circular because of the old churches and of another thing that reminds us of Christianity. You know, many people did their history their own way, saved their identity their own way. The Armenians saved it through Christianity. I said they saved the identity. I didn't say they saved themselves. Okay, because we paid. We paid, as every other Christian paid. We understood, it took 2,000 years to understand that it's an instrument, very powerful instrument, Christianity, religion. So we rebuilt ourselves through Christianity every time it was destroyed. Okay? So that's why these books are more important now. Again, it's about everything. It's 90% or more is written in Grabal Armenian. It's themes of any kind. There's herbal medicine, there's astrophysicists, books with about biology, history, philosophy, every kind of manuscript you can possibly find. Then you see the first Armenian, it's a piece of an Armenian cut, the cross stone, big basalt stone reliefs of the cross and the message. Also used as tombstones, by the way. So again, Anthony Spinelli, the man who built this, he asked the Venetian superintendents, the architects, he said, may I build an Armenian church from the outside and inside and put manuscript inside? They said, yeah, of course you can. You have to build like Venice is built. He said, okay, no problem. He built it from the inside. This pointy tower in the Armenian old churches is this. They were small, it was all like stone made. You would hear your voice when you talk, there was a strong echo. Which reminds you, if you stand here in the center, you will hear yourself talking. It's a very strange thing. Because to remind you of the acoustics of the old Armenian churches. Again, just centering yourself into the center of the culture, in this case, of that. And whoever wants to try it, to stand in the middle and talk, you may try it. Because it's a very strange thing to listen to your voice in delay. Okay? So that's that. This is, I think, 18th century made wood made. Even if it doesn't look like it, it's wood. Okay? Maria and yes. Just talk.
Hello. Oh,
That's it. That's the thing.
it's like a microphone.
Yeah, similar like a microphone. Yes. The thing is, my friends say here the line to talk to God is stronger.
Try it.
So you can hear each other better.
Try it.
So yeah,
It's great.
that's that.
He wanted to be heard, so.
The longer you talk, the stranger. Yes, it's built in stone around you and up. It's the central point of the reverberation scene.
Hello? Exactly right, yes. Hello? So it's the vibrations off of these beams?
Horizontal, vertical point of concentration is the middle.
That's amazing.
There's many places.
Say hello.
Say a sentence.
Keep going.
Oh, misty eye of the mountain below, keep careful watch of my brother's soul. And should the sky be filled with fire and smoke, keep watching over burning town. Oh my God!
Movie right now with Tom Cruise with the mummy. So a real mummy, okay? It's 2,700 years old. His name was Nemenket Amon. Amon means Amon Ra. In this case, he was a priest from Cairo. He was praying to the god of sun. This glass pearl cover you see on him, that's new. This was restored from his sarcophagus' face, which is not this one. This sarcophagus is older than he is. Okay, his was found destroyed. You couldn't read exactly what was on it. So he was brought in the sarcophagus, by the way. This is Ra's symbol, by the way. So he was a priest from Cairo. So what happened is, in 1825, the Armenian finance minister gave this mummy to this island as a gift, because they were studying everything here. They were studying history and also Egyptology, and what is better to read about the mummy in a book, and then to come downstairs into the classroom and see one in person, right? And professors from Egypt tell me, even from the Museum of the Mummies there, they told me to see another mummy in this state that is uncovered with face and feet, we have to go to Cairo. It's a big thing to say. Europe is a big place, it has a long history, but this is an honor to have this mummy in this state here, so it's great. To move a mummy from A to B today, you need presidential levels of consent. It's not just a museum which decides to give this not so big honor to have this here. 1825. It's hermetically sealed. You see there was salt chemistry behind it. They're changing this every couple of, every decade or so in order to keep this as well as it is. The more important the person was, the more sophisticated methods of mummification they used to preserve him. Okay, so this man, he was important. You see the teeth, by the way, here, right next to him, and a piece of his brain. Needless to say, this man has no organs. Everything was taken out, including the brain, which is the A and O, which is the most important thing to preserve a body like this.
But they thought the heart was actually what.
Yeah, what was thinking? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? That was
And by the way, these are more of what I was telling you about.
the small ones. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The oldest object in general, the oldest one, is this bronze statue cat. Okay, beneath his feet. It's 2000 BC. We know the Egyptians believed in reincarnation, and cats were seen as gods. Okay, so that's that one. So this is the library which ends from above there. This is the ending here. One of the most important set of books we have is this one, these white ones in vertical. In French language, Description d'Egypte. Every archaeological discovery made by the archaeologues of Bonaparte, Napoleon Bonaparte, written down in detail. There's 6 or 7 copies left on the planet. We have the honor of having these here, these ones and the horizontal red ones over there. So Bonaparte, that man didn't like churches too much, right? So when he came to Venice, the first thing he did is said, give me a list of every monastery and church, please, in Venice. They gave it to him, and San Lazzaro was on the list. So he sent one of his agents here, to take a look at the island. We were lucky for 2 things. One, the man Napoleon sent was a very highly educated man in the history of art. He knew exactly what was here. Then the bodyguard of Bonaparte, he was Armenian. Right? That's good to have, right? We convinced him to sit down on the negotiating table. We talked a lot. At the end, he wrote basically a declaration. He wrote, I'm saying more or less what he said. He said, this is not just a monastery. I am giving the title of Academy of Science. No one should touch this island under my jurisdiction. Napoleon Bonaparte. We have this letter sealed in the slightly more important archives somewhere on the island. So we had great luck and good diplomatic skills.
Yeah.
Of which, diplomatic skills, I wish we had that today.
Yes.
Something similar at least, right? So that's Bonaparte's story. These chairs and the table, it's Indian, by the way, 13th century, typical Indian. The white pieces you see, it's ivory decoration. And then we turn around and we see Lord Byron's painting, his portrait, which is, this was his room. He was studying here during the day, and he would go home at night, or should I say sometimes swam home. By the way, he came from the Alto Lido, he swam to this island. So he was a writer, a thinker, a politician. He was a lot of things, So he studied here in this room. That wall was closed, obviously. This is from 1967, and he studied the Armenian language. He translated some of the manuscripts from Gerabar Armenian into English, which is rare, to say the least. Not everyone was studying Gerabar at the time. So he even did some dictionaries, English, Armenian, Armenian, English. And we know also how he died. He died in the Greek War of Independence. As soon as he found out that the Ottoman Empire was standing on the doorstep, which was Greece right now, he bought his own soldiers, went to war to organize the soldiers, and he died of a fever. Something you can cure today, with 4 pills of antibiotics. Not back then, unfortunately. So that's Lord Byron's story. This over here. This is again in Indian Pali language. So this is not as old as Sanskrit, right? Okay, this is older. This is a newer, sorry. 12 segments of palm leaf. Okay. It's gold on it. It's a prayer. It's a Buddhist prayer. And the way you read this, the language, the Pali language, is you start on the left here, and you.
Yeah, the mummy is the real.
You read backwards.
Yeah, what he was saying is the container he came in was damaged, and so they brought him with this.
I thought you said the mummy was destroyed.
No. This is it.
1850s, found in Madras, which was another Armenian-influenced city in southeast India. All right, but that was that part. And the age of the monks, by the way, here goes
And that's
from
his teeth
29 to 92.
and brain.
And the brain
Those
is there.
Armenian is from Ethiopia. He has blue eyes and he was blonde once. So what I'm trying to say, the Armenians don't all look dark as I am. Okay? So because Armenia was 14 times bigger at a point, and we were it was okay. We were living with different people for a long time. So
That's
totally
Byron.
mixed. Over here you can see this reddish painting in the roadside. That's from Ethiopia. That's Ethiopian history. That's Saba.
here.
It's their queen. Okay, that was given by a collector. Oh,
Not that dangerous to using myself.
It was the room Byron stayed in and studied.
Perfect timing.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, he built this building. So this is the oldest building that Megadad built from zero, from ground up at that time. So finally, you see who I'm talking about. That's Megadad above the door in the modern mosaic. Okay, that's him. Below him, we see an Armenian Grabar writing in capital letters, and it basically says that the piece of the meal should never be interrupted by speaking. They did not have the right to speak here. Okay, there was not one single tone to be spoken. The procedure is the following. During the refectory, everyone walks in, stands in their places. Okay? There's a prayer. The prayer finishes, they sit down, start eating. How we call them, the students, the who study to become monks, they sit here. One of them has to stand up, go through that secret door in the right angle there. Exactly. Go upstairs to this balcony and pray from this little book written in Grabar. Okay, again. 6, 7, 8 minutes, whatever he prays, comes downstairs, starts eating, as probably everyone else has finished. And it's like, it teaches them a thing to say, you know, there's a sacrifice to be made. Even though if you're hungry, if you're like, you can't even see, you're kind of, you're sweating, but you have to do it. So he comes downstairs, starts eating, everyone finishes, there's the last prayer, everyone walks out, and the next day his colleague continues exactly where he left off. So again, everything ever written in Armenian is in Grabar, okay, in this old language, the old history, and the liturgy in church is in Grabar, so they have to know the language obviously, so they have to study it. So you see more plates than we have monks. There's 14 monks living here right now, 1-4. And the reason is we had many monks here who were not on the island for over 30 years, because they went and they were directors of schools, they were teaching, because you know by the way why they have the beard, the monks. Generally accepted theory is that this is a symbol to say I'm detaching myself from the social pleasures. Right? In Buddhist tradition, for example, it's the contrary. You have to shave in order to show that you're, detached from the social pleasures. So yeah, that's that part. And then we have visitors, students, researchers, family members, politicians, whatever. They sometimes sit down and have a meal with us. Okay, so breakfast, lunch, supper.
So you have that 3 meals.
Yeah, 3 meals basically. Yes. So that's this one. So then you see another, beautiful painting of Antonio Novelli, Italian artist, great genius. And what he did is this Last Supper scene, he modernized it. Can you see the walls behind him, the table? This is not 2,000 years ago. The idea is to modernize the idea of Jesus, which is I guess it will always be modern, loving each other, helping each other out, not killing, and all those nice things. It's a message which I don't think will get ever old. Right? So he modernized that idea. You see the woman on the far right, and there's 2 men on the far left. That Novelli saying like they must have had some help with the food, with the drinks. Very simple, right? So that's Novelli. And as you see, it's been painted exactly for this room, and it stayed like this for most of the time. Above us, we were at the Monumental Library before, and you notice when you walk there, the ground was kind of moving. Yeah, of course, there was not an earthquake. That was you. And the thing is, we're standing above those wooden things I showed you, right? The wooden pillars that go down, this fonamenta. And the building had to be as light as possible. So that's why they didn't build in stone or whatever. They built it with this typical Venetian architecture for the roofs. And then above it you see again, there were no plates of stone, because that would be too heavy. It was called the terrazzo veneziano, like this Venetian kind of, it was basically little pieces of stone which is it goes. And the best thing is, look at the ground here. It's kind of moved. It's not exactly 180 degrees. And the wall and like in the ceiling, it moved with it. It's dynamic. And this thing can flex to incredible levels, without breaking. That's the Venetian terrazzo. And the last thing, those tables were not only used as tables once. They were put together, and there would be a theater stage here. They would do theater in this place. Okay. Exactly. So that's that part. Now we move outside. We go to.
Feels good.
Hoe dan, man? Ah, kijk naar. Ja, kijk.
Oh, yeah, scusa,
Glasses are a must, man. Honestly.
You want mine?
and what about the wife living in Coventry?
I'm not saying only like one day.
Yeah, because it's so
Oh, thank you.
Pence is not that much better, but at least the guy can be a politician.
Omheid.
But also my so passionate.
Bye bye, Saint Lazare.
mi fai pure le foto della scala, volevo vedere anche
Solo, cioè cominci proprio male. Cominci male. No, perché lei si sarà domandata il cancello, sì, però voglio dire, non mi sono messa lì a indagare.
Ne pare che...
Ci uso, vostè ci uso.
Վիճը խոսացեք։ Խոսացեք։
Anyway, my point is աշխատող
մարդը չի կարող։
Էսի հիշացնում է բանը։ Մի հատ մարդ ունենք, որ մեզի բանը ֆրուտ եւ vegetable-ա բերում։ Godfather-ի բանը ուզեց տեղից։ Ավտոյի զվանոկ, որ երբ որ գա, էդի միացնի։
Ուրեմն որ մամայից տուն եմ գնում, ամեն առավոտ ժամին 2 շաբթի, 3 շաբթի մի հատ տրակ է գալիս վան, բիբի պտալիս է, ու գիտես որ եկել է։ Այո, Yashikov pomidor varung el ասես, այնքան ընդդիմացավ։
Եվ շատ լավ պամիդոր վարունգ է տալի այդ մարդը։
Ձայնը որ լսում էի, վազում էի, որ այո, ընկեր ջան, ինչ ես բերում այսօր։ Ասեց էսի կա։ Ասեցի նայ, ճամփորդ եմ, գնում եմ Իտալիա։ Այ քուր ջան, գնում ես Իտալիա, ինձ մի հատ այդ սիգնալից բեր։ Ասում եմ, ինչ սիգնալ է։ Ասում եմ, Godfather-ի սիգնալ է։
Ասա ամերիկական կա։
Էս ինչի, բայց էս մուվից է։ Էս էս սիգնալ։
Ավտոյի սիգնալ կա։
Որ ավտոն որ գա, իմանաս որ ինքն է։ Ասի բերեմ ախպեր ջան, գլխիս վրա բերեմ։
Էս մեկը, հենց էս մեկը։ Բայց ասա, ինչ ասեցիր, ասի որտեղից բերեմ։
Ասեցի, բայց ես հիմա այդ որ մի խանութի մտնեմ, որ էդի բերեմ քո համար, ինձի ասա, որ իմանամ։ Որ ջան, որ մի խանում
ամեն տեղ կաս։
Ասում եմ, լավ, եթե ամեն տեղ կա, այսինքն ասում աղջիկս մտավ, ինտերնետ մտավ, ասում եմ, բայց ամերիկան չընդունեց։ Չի թողել։ Ասի, օքեյ, կբերեմ, որ մտնեմ խանութ, չգիտեմ հիմա պտի որ մի տեղ մտնեմ, լսի Բիատրիս ինձի, իրա պրվյումի բանն ա տվել, ասում ա, որ գնաս Venice, էսի ա, եկել եմ, չեմ եկել, պրվյումի խանութ եմ փնտրում, որ իրա պրվյում ա առնել, չեն գտնում, online էլ ենք մտել, մտանք, սաղս մտել ենք, նայում ենք չկա, ստեղ չի, բայց ասում ա, հենց մտնես Saint Marcos Square ձախից վրա է, օքեյ,
Բայց որ կողմը, որ ձախի վրա։
Հիմա վրացել եմ, ամեն մի խանութ մտել եմ, երեխեքին ասում եմ, look out for perfume shops։
Ես անգինը մի հատ ոսկե չկա։
Թոքաչյանա ինչա, հայա։ Թոքացյան։
Ես Թոքացյան։
Օ, հենց էդ էի ասում, ման են գալի էդի, ասում էի, կարծեմ Թոքացյանա էդի։
Ես մտա
Ասում ա, forget it,
ասի, ով ա դերը։
Խարկներս բեր, խարկներն ամորացել, ապարտմենտի մեջ, ասում ա,
ասեց ստեղ չգիտեմ, անի պասպորդը ցույց տվեց, Թոքացյանա,
Ընդ Թոքացյան չի գրած, շիա։
Լորենցո,
Այո,
Լորենցո Դանտե Ֆերո,
հա, ընդեղ
Թոքացյան կա, պոլիսում,
հիմա ես Google եմ արել, բայց ասում ա ստեղ չի ինքը, բայց ասում ա
Բրավո։
բայց չգիտեմ, բարեկամ,
Եվ այսօրվանն էլ ավելի հաճելի է, քան թե մյուսները։ Կամեն ապերոնա։ Այս ապերոն նոր սովորեցինք, մենք գիտենք բանը, կամպարին, կարմիրը, բայց եսի ստեղ տեսանք անցալերը, ասենք ես մի հատ փորձենք։
Sì.
One more.
Vamos.